Education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. Failure is instructive. The person who really thinks learns quite as much from his failures as from his successes. Every great advance in science has issued from a new audacity of imagination. Democracy needs to be reborn in each generation, and education is its midwife. Arriving at one goal is the starting point to another. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Time and memory are true artists. They remold reality nearer to the heart's desire. The self is not something ready-made, but something in continuous formation through choice of action. The aim of education is to enable individuals to continue their education. Education is not a preparation for life, but is life itself. Growth itself is the only moral end. Education is a social process, education is growth, education is not a preparation for life but is life itself. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he is not the same man. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. We learn by doing. Luck is passing through preparedness. An ounce of experience is better than a ton of theory. The greatest obstacle to progress is prejudice. Skepticism means not intellectual doubt alone, but moral doubt. The path of least resistance and least trouble is a mental rut already made. It requires troublesome work to undertake the alternation of old beliefs. Without some goals and some efforts to reach it, no man can live. The self is not something that one finds. It is something one creates. What the best and wisest parent wants for his child, that must we want for all the children of the community. Anything less is unlovely, and left unchecked, destroys our democracy. To be conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the experiences that go before it. Every great democracy throughout history has been destroyed. Why? Because the people were not vigilant enough. Genuine ignorance is profitable because it is likely to be accompanied by humility, curiosity, and open-mindedness, whereas ability to repeat catchphrases, cant terms, familiar propositions, gives the conceit of learning. The task of the educator lies in seeing that the child does not confound good with immobility and evil with activity. To the extent that we are all educated and informed, we will be more equipped to deal with the gut issues that tend to divide us. The only freedom that is of enduring importance is the freedom of intelligence, that is to say, freedom of observation and of judgment, exercised in behalf of purposes that are intrinsically worthwhile. The commonest mistake made about freedom is, I think, to identify it with freedom of movement, or with the external or physical side of activity. It is a familiar and significant saying that a problem well put is half solved. A problem well put is a problem half solved. The self is social. The self is not an entity glowing in its own light. It is essentially dependent on others for its development. Unless each day can be looked back upon by an individual as one in which he has had some fun, some joy, some real satisfaction, that day is a loss. The ideal aim of education is the creation of power of self-control by the individual. We always live at the time we live, and not at some other time, and only by extracting at each present time the full meaning of each present experience are we prepared for doing the same thing in the future. The essential point is that the student shall be inspired to desire to continue his or her education into the indefinite future. The end of education is to see men made whole, both in competence and in their inspiration to live wisely, to think deeply and to love greatly. To find out what one is fitted to do, and to secure an opportunity to do it, is the key to happiness. A man is not logical, he is psychological. The proliferation of devices designed to engineer outcomes based on narrow criteria imposed from above and monitored through standardized tests is not associated with high levels of accomplishment or creativity. The patterns of play, of inquiry, of creation grow out of those with which the child is already familiar. One lives forward by taking responsibility for oneself, by deciding for oneself how he ought to live and who he ought to be. The only true equalizers in the world are books. The only treasure house open to all comers is a library. The only wealth which will not decay is knowledge. The only jewel which you can carry beyond the grave is wisdom. Man is not logical. Man is a being of traditions, of instincts, and of preconceived notions. I believe that education is the fundamental method of social progress and reform. If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. Every great advance in science has issued from a new audacity of imagination. Education, therefore, is a process of living and not a preparation for future living.